If you want to get into the groove, mask up to get down, and make sure you stay 6 feet from stardom. Today, on A Place of Our Own, bow ties and kitchen aprons generally don't mix, but they are the preferred choice of attire for a trip to 1890s New England, where class and grace and good food meant fashionable living. Welcome, I'm Pete Charles Sesko, and this is the thrift store Rundown's Place of Our Own. A Place of Our Own was designed just for you. Kids, teens, Generation Zers, millennials, baby boomers, anyone who wants to bring Hollywood to the classroom on a budget. As you know, every interaction you have with your favorite celebrity or fellow fandom friend is a very important learning opportunity that you can apply to your everyday life. So when it comes to educating yourself about the wonderful world of pop culture, TSR is committed to helping you make the grade. In fact, we are your first and coolest teacher. The late 1890s in Boston was a period of revolutions: industrial, domestic, and culinary. And spearheading the latter two revolutions, domestic and culinary, was the late Fannie Farmer. Yes, that is her real name, Fannie Farmer. In many ways, she was, at least in the opinion of America's Test Kitchen's Christopher Kimball, the original test cook. Her legacy and her recipes are encapsulated in this book, authored by bow tie guy Chris, Fannie's Last Supper, recreating one amazing meal from Fannie Farmer's 1896 cookbook, the Boston Cooking School Cookbook. This was purchased off of Amazon for $5.68, barring any taxes and applicable shipping and handling costs. We'll leave it up to Chris and company to tell you more about the history of Fannie Farmer and the rigorous development and testing of all 20 recipes in a 12-course Christmas dinner that Chris prepared from Fannie Farmer's cookbook for the dinner party of the century. And I'll be back with more about the documentary. This book is the companion to that documentary, as well as my review of the book itself. Plant your fannies firmly on that armchair of yours for a delicious trip back in time. Coming up right now on the Thrift Store Rundown's Place of Our Own.
How would you go back in time? Perhaps an authentic 19th century dinner party, prepared by none other than Fannie Farmer herself.
You know, Fannie Farmer really was the original test kitchen cook. She always asked, could this recipe be better? And she'd go back extensively and test it. She wanted to get to the bottom of how food worked.
This is Fannie's Last Supper, a taste of culinary history.
I should have been born in a Victorian, well, some people think I was, in a Victorian time. I have this love affair with cooking over wood.
Can 21st century cooks recreate a 12-course dinner party in 3 hours using only a 19th century wood-burning stove?
I thought Chris was crazy. What could go wrong, Keith?
What could go wrong or what has gone wrong?
So we're running 15 minutes late.
Anything can happen with food, and especially working on the stove. Bringing stocks to a boil and straining stocks and cooking brain balls and frying rissoles, and while I was feeding the fire and tending the fire and moving pots around.
Do you think Fannie Farmer sweat like this?
12 courses, 3 hours, 92 degrees.
And that's on top of the air conditioner.
Will they make it?
You never know. And we definitely have had some disasters. Controlling the temperature is going to be the biggest challenge.
Chris's house is just a few blocks away from Fannie Farmer's house, where she lived with most of her family. And it's the perfect place to stage a recreation of a Fannie dinner because it's completely evocative of the era.
By the 1880s, they were writing 5 or 6 books a year about, how to dine, how to dress. So the meal wasn't just a function of sitting down to eat. It was all about the dining room. It was all about the house. It was about entertaining. It was about social levels. to build this culinary time machine, a grand way of simply saying, let's go back and cook that food. Not just cook the food, but cook lots of variations of it, and let's research it and see what different people did, and then even work with it and try to make it even better by modern standards. And that's going to tell us a lot about who those people were, I think, and what life was like for them. Because just looking at a recipe doesn't tell a story. You want to taste the past, You don't want to just read about the past, you want to think about the past, you want to taste it, you want to feel it, you want to get your hands on the past. And cooking, it seems to me, is really the ideal way to go back in time.
Fannie Farmer was born to John and Mary Farmer in 1857 and was one of 4 daughters.
Fannie Farmer was often described as being a fiery redhead with a huge amount of energy.
While still in high school, Fannie was struck with polio and was a partial invalid for 10 years, eliminating the possibility of higher education.
She couldn't go to college, really had a very difficult life, didn't have that much money to start with, and she had to make a name for herself in her own career, and boy, she worked hard.
In 1888, Fannie enrolled in the Boston Cooking School, and in a few short years was offered the position of principal.
Everyone described her as being this dynamic, incredible presence and giving these amazing demonstrations, and just looking at the notes of her students, how they would take these incredibly detailed notes and little drawings of the ways that Fannie had made whichever dish it was that they were learning to make that day. So she was obviously a very inspiring presence.
Elaborate 12-course menus were nothing new in 1896. In fact, Fannie Farmer published such a menu in the first edition of her cookbook.
It was a 12-course menu, which we researched heavily in the 19th century. They're all pretty much the same. They had a certain pattern to them. They all had the same idea of shifting around. And so it's just like music. If you have something that's orchestrated over a long period of time, you can't just have one simple theme. And that's really the concept here, is to have a really interesting experience where it's not just, low to high, it's up and down.
I thought Chris was crazy. I really thought he was crazy. Our life at America's Test Kitchen is full. It's like 100% full. And he's like, let's do this 800-page book, in a year and develop 30 recipes.
Not to mention the more practical challenges. Managing the temperature of a wood stove. Working in the grueling heat of a Victorian kitchen. And bringing to life 19th century dishes without a minute to spare.
So now that you had a look behind the scenes at the making of the meticulous, bold 12-course meal, as well as the history behind it all, let's talk about the book and the documentary. This book, which retails for $25.99, is a companion to the documentary produced by DGA Productions, which co-produces America's Test Kitchen. It was founded by the late DOP, director of photography for the show, Dean Gaskill. It aired in November of 2010. This book contains not one but 2 color insets, black and white and in color. Now I gotta say, the book, with both of the photo insets, is a very good summary of what you just saw a moment ago. Yet I gotta say, the recipes are set to dazzle too. All around, this book will leave you feeling stuffed to the brims in your mind with knowledge. And if you're really feeling adventurous, this book might have you stuffed to the 9s in your stomach as well, with the recipes. All recipes from the 12-course menu are featured in this book, which makes this a great dual history and social studies cookbook. How about that? These are some of the courses featured on that menu. Mock turtle soup, lobster a l'Americaine, Canton sorbet, roast goose with chestnut stuffing, fried baby artichokes, grilled salmon, and roast saddle lamb, plus rissoles with 3 fillings, Duel chicken liver, and cherry chutney and onion with blue cheese. Plus the mandarin cake. Mandarin. if there was a live band inside that house, I think it wasn't, but I think a live band would have accentuated the evening even more with a mandolin, a garden band really, mandolin, a piano, a drum set, maybe a couple of violinists, a very refined, elegant ambiance to everything. Some of the attendees of this 12-course meal from Christopher's home included Harry Smith, journalist, Renee Montaigne of NPR's Morning Edition, Chefs Mark and Kelly Bittman of the New York Times, married, and Jose Andres, who fell in love with a particular mermaid sculpture. This is an after-dinner toast, which preceded or followed a big round of applause, well-deserved, for the test cooks here, all from ATK, who contributed mightily to the making of the 12-course meal. Additional recipes are included from Fannie Farmer's Boston Cooking School cookbook. And while they have been updated to utilize some modern appliances and tools and equipment, the ingredients stay true to the original recipes, so you might have to become besties with your local specialty food purveyor or butcher if you want to knock some of these recipes off of your bucket list. This book drew praise from Mark Bittman, part history and part contemporary journalism, and in my view, part delicious hybrid history and social studies cookbook. This is a fascinating story and absolutely unique. There's more praise from Daniel Hum, executive chef of 11 Madison Park, Lydia Bastianich, fellow public television how-to royalty, and Lynn Rosetto Casper, host of the Splendid Table podcast, but really, take it from somebody who's been there, Mark Bittman. The dinner was a spectacle, and so too is the documentary, which I will link via Amazon Prime Video if you want to see, and its companion book, which earns all 5 claps. As Chris explains towards the end of the book, Fannie was never one to savor her own cuisine or anyone else's. She always took a bite and wondered, how could it get better? What could I do to make it better? As far as delicious trips back in time go, to a period when life was much more simpler, to a point, and much more refined, and a lot more fun, can it get any better than this? That's the question I asked Fannie in spirit, and ask all of you, as well as myself and Chris, if by some miracle he's watching this. I have a feeling that you will savor every page and every photo of this book, and if you're feeling really daring, all of the adventurous recipes. This class is now dismissed, but remember, if you missed any lessons in this series, be sure to check out my back-to-school playlist, Too Cool for School, which you can find through a link in the description. And be sure to subscribe and click the bell. And remember, when it comes to bringing Hollywood to the classroom on a budget, TSR is committed to helping you make the grade. That's why we are your first and coolest teacher. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the flip side on A Place of Our Own.